Okay, so welcome back, and let me get right into showing you the exact formula that I used for setting up the world's most powerful money-making system. But first, just real quick, I wanted to mention that I also want to give you the one hidden secret that causes most people not to make money online. And by the way, if you don't know this little gem of a secret, I can almost guarantee you that you will not make any real money to speak of online, but I'll tell you more about that later on. For now, I want to show you my exact formula I used for setting up the world's most powerful money-making system. Now, this is actually what I have written down in my private notes, and you might want to write this down too. This is the exact formula right here. How do I make the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the least amount of effort with the least amount of investment? You see, when you really begin to realize you only have so much time in a day and you're going to spend that time doing something no matter what, you start thinking, do I really want to limit myself to only making $100 a day, or a couple $100 a day, or a few thousand a day? And that's when, years ago, I came up with the perfect formula, which is I wanted to make the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the least amount of effort with the least amount of investment, which is the perfect formula for creating tremendous wealth, like making $235,937 a month. So let me give you this formula again in case you missed it. I literally have written down, how can I make the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the least amount of effort with the least amount of investment? And that is the #1 formula that I use, as well as some other formulas to make huge amounts of money online. Now, here's something I think you'll find absolutely fascinating, and it's what happened when I first launched the world's most powerful money-making system. When I first launched the world's most powerful money-making system, here's exactly what happened. I was going to launch the system, and at that time I decided that I wanted to work with about 25 to 30 people to see if they could duplicate what I was doing. Well, about 25 to 30 of those people begged me to let them tell a few friends so they could work my system too, and I said, okay, but just a few. Well, just 3 days later on Monday, that first small group of just 30 people turned into 231 extra people for a total of 261 people. And I said, okay, that's it, no more. No more inviting friends. This is plenty of people. But it was really cool because everyone that I showed really got it, and they could do exactly what I was doing, and that was really great. Now, after I saw I could handle teaching 261 people, I said to them, I said, okay guys, you can invite a few more close friends, and that quickly turned into over 750 people in just that month. And then of course those people wanted to invite a few of their friends, which I said, okay, we'll see what happens, and you can get a few more friends. Well, that turned into 1,700 people the next month, and then 2,700 the very next month. And here's what I discovered. Not only had I created a system for making money, but I also had created a system that would make other people money, and they were all willing to pay me to learn my system. And that's what I did. I was charging these guys around $49.95 a month to follow my money-making system. But I kind of got ahead of myself here, because it actually started with a good friend of mine named Bob, and this was before I had let all these other people start using my system. So let me start here right at the very beginning. You see, like I mentioned, a friend of mine, Bob, knew that when I originally started what I was doing with the money-making system, that I was letting just this one guy named Gary use my system for making money. And here's the deal me and Gary had. I told Gary he could use my system, but he had to pay me 50% of everything he made. And that was really great. I mean, after the first week of using my money-making system, though, Gary asked me if he could include a good friend of his, and I told him sure, but it's going to have to be with the same arrangement, Gary, that, we have. Your friend's going to have to pay me 50% of the money he makes from using my system. Well, to tell you the truth, Gary's friend wasn't pleased because he said, well, if I make $10,000, I'm going to owe Frank $5,000. And Gary said, yeah, and how much would you be making if you didn't have Frank's system? So that was that. The guy said, yeah, you're absolutely right. And so we went on with business. Now, at the same time, another friend of mine named Jeff heard what I was doing, and of course he wanted in on it. Well, I told him the same thing I told Gary. I told him, sure, but I'll charge you 50% of what you make using my money-making system. And I decided that, I was only going to work with these three guys. So it was really just Jeff, Gary, Gary's friend, which I can't even remember Gary's friend's name now. So that's really the foundation. Now, remember my friend Bob that I had mentioned earlier? Well, Bob had come over to my house one day, and we were talking, and I was telling him about this arrangement, with Gary and Gary's friend and Jeff, and, how it was going. Bob already knew it, but, he said, how's that arrangement going, Frank? And I said, it's going really good, Bob. I'm happy, they're happy, Well, Bob said, wow, that sounds really cool, and so me and Bob went ahead and talked about other stuff, and Bob took off, and I went on doing what I was doing. Well, the next morning, bright and early, Bob called me and he said, Frank, we need to talk. I said, sure, Bob, what's up? And he said, I got this great idea. I said, okay, what do you got? Because I'm open-minded. I look at, anything and everything for making money. So Bob says, that arrangement you have with Jeff, Gary, and that other guy? And all of a sudden I kind of reluctantly said, yeah. He said, well, would you be willing to sell me your same money-making information, but instead of charging me 50% of what I make, I only want to pay you $49.95 a month for it? Well, I told him, I said, sure, Bob, and I just fell off a turnip truck and cracked my head. Now, I mean, why would I want to do that? He said, and get this, he said, because I have 500,000 members who are willing to pay you $49.95 a month to use your system for making them money. So I said, well, geez, Bob, when do I start teaching them? Now, just to let you know, it turns out it wasn't exactly 500,000 people, but that's how the whole thing started, with the 30 people, and then the 231, and then the 750, and on and on. But the important part about the story is why we're just everyday, ordinary people willing to pay me $49.95 a month for my world's most powerful money-making system. Well, because it worked, and it works. You see, I was showing them how to make all this cash, and they were more than willing to pay me for showing them. And so you see, I kind of figured it this way anyway, is that working with Jeff, Gary, and Gary's friend, if they all made $10,000 a month and paid me 50%, that means that they'd each owe me $5,000, which means I'd only make $15,000 a month. But if I shared my information with all these other guys and they paid me $49.95 a month, well, just with like 750 of them, I'd be making $37,000 a month. And the next month the membership grew to around $1,700, which was bringing in over $80,000, and of course on and on and on. But the important thing to take note of here is this: the system I had created was doing about 95% of the work. I mean, is that cool or what? I had created a system that made money hand over fist, and then people were willing to pay me to use my money making system, which made even more money. And the system itself was doing almost all of the work for me. I mean, it was just like a McDonald's franchise, including how to put the pickle on the bun. Now, I'll tell you something here. If you want to make that kind of money, you can, and it's really simple to do, but here's what you need to understand. It is a basic fundamental that you really want to understand, and it's the difference between you making hundreds and thousands of dollars a month or not making hardly anything, and in most cases, not even making a dime. Now, here's what that fundamental is. And by the way, you might want to write this down as well, because some people, believe it or not, just don't get this. And if you don't get it, it's almost impossible to make huge amounts of money online or even offline. Now, most people, all hear about us guys making all this money on the internet, and it's true, there is more money to be made on the internet. In fact, a person can make more money in 1 month than most people make in an entire year. I mean, it's incredible how much money there is to be made online. However, this is the one thing you must know to make this kind of money. Let's say your goal is to make $10,000 a month, or $20,000, or $30,000, or even $200 grand a month, and it's just like I'll be showing you. Now, that's a good goal, but if that's what you focus on, you will never do it, and here's why. Be sure and write this down. You need to know how to make your first $100. You see,